Hi, and welcome to Danny After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight is another one of my installments of my true crime book recommendations. As you can see, I have a few books here to recommend to you guys that have been awesome reading, and I want to share the wealth. And as a little bit of a treat, doors open. So you know what that means. The cats. So who is in here already? Loki is down there. Tuca is up on the tower. Luke and Leia were running around. They will be back in, I assure you. So if things get a little loud, it's the kittens. They are wild, but that's okay. So, hi everybody, and thank you for joining me. I was supposed to do the show on Tuesday, but I was sick, so I had to reschedule. So, my apologies. But let's see who is here. James Watson. James, you are not the only one here, I assure you. But if you were, then that's just an extra special Danny After Dark. Like and subscribe. Hey, Jinx. Hi, Joanne Watson. Hi, Renee. Let's see. Jinx, cat orange whistling. Hey, Mermaid. Hey, Corey Novak. Good to see you all. And I'm really excited, really excited because I am a total book nerd and I love to read. And coming off of CrimeCon, where I bought a lot of books while I was there, I got a lot of books for my birthday. Christmas is coming up and I already have like a big list of books that I want. Pretty much all true crime. I mean, who am I kidding? So yeah. And who just walked by? Selena. That was Selena. So, hey Kane. Hey Tony. Hello everybody. So I'm really excited here because again, I love to read and I love to share that with you guys. And also I love to get recommendations from you guys. One of them, Kane, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. But let's go ahead and jump in because I'm very excited. The first book that I am recommending is, and this is a staple, this is a true crime staple. I feel like if you're not even into true crime, you know this book. Everybody knows this book. Whether everybody has read it or not, I'm not sure. Okay, is that my cat sneezing? Yes, it is. All right. That book is Ann Rule, The Stranger Beside Me, the shocking inside story of serial killer Ted Bundy. So this is, again, a true crime staple for those who don't know. So Ann Rule actually worked with Ted Bundy. They worked at a Seattle crisis center in 1971. And she had no idea at the time that this was the Ted. So I really like this because Ann Rule she's a genius and she knows her stuff. And it just goes to show you that when the mask is on, Ted Bundy, for example, anybody can easily be deceived, be fooled. Because I think a lot of times we read true crime and, we read it after the fact when somebody's already brought to trial or brought to justice. And it's like, well, how did people miss these signs? How did they not know? And a book like this is really good because it gives that insight into how her relationship with him formed, how she saw him, not just at the time they worked together, but they kept in contact after the fact. And she goes over all of that. It's a pretty big book. It's about 550 pages. So worth it. This has been sitting for a while for me to recommend because I really just wanted to spread out. I own a lot of Ted Bundy books, and I wanted to kind of spread out the amount of coverage that I give about him. And the good thing with this book too is there are pictures. I'm trying to find which one did I want to show you guys in here. Okay, so this is a picture of Ann Rule when she was a volunteer at the crisis center. So again, this is an older picture of her, but I'm really glad she showed that because we know her kind of on the back now as Ann Rule, true crime author, true crime expert, but this was just her back in the day when she didn't know who was working with her. So again, a true crime staple. Get yourself this book and read it if you have not already. You will not be disappointed. And if you see me looking over that way, because I have 2 cats over there that look like they're ready to jump up and knock over my water. So yeah, I'm just trying to keep an eye on them. Let's see. Before I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Hi, Capone. Good to see you. Kane says in the book Echoes in Darkness, it doesn't mention that later Jay Smith got out of jail, had another trial, and was acquitted. Kane, you're jumping ahead. Renee says, so I didn't finish The Season of the Witch. Oh, that's such a good book, but I've been deep in it for a week. I think you need to have a show just on that. Yeah, we had been over on the Paul cast for the Manson Saga discussion panel. The 3 of us read that book, and there's just so much to it. It's such an amazing book. Even if you're not into true crime and just into history, you would really like Season of the Witch. And we've been talking about doing a show about that for so long, and then we just never got around to it. But I will let Paul and Beckham know that it is still being requested. Let's see. Echoes in Darkness. What's my, oh, you mean was my local, that is my local host. Oh, Kane. That's awesome. Mermaid and Corey. You too. All right. The second book that I'm recommending is, and this is not my book. I borrowed one. I know, what a crime. I'm wicked OCD and I don't do Audible. I'm old school. I like to buy my books. I have like a library of my books, if you will. I keep them. I like to reread them. I keep them in pristine condition. But my friend Liz, who you guys saw when we did the collab on the Netflix documentary about the Boston Marathon bombing, she recommended this book. We just happened to be talking about it and she was telling me about it, and it kind of stuck in my head for a while. That book is The Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women by Kate Moore. And this was also a movie as well. And Liz was telling me about it. And again, it just kind of stayed in the back of my head. And then one day I was like, what is that book again? Who is that author? And I met up with Liz and she brought it and was like, oh, here you go, read it. So I got my hands on it. Sad thing is that means I have to give it back now, but that's okay. This is, again, another big book. It's just under 500 pages, but so good. Liz had told me a little bit about it. For those who don't know what it's about, this is back when, let's see, during the dark years of the First World War, the Curie's newly discovered wonder drug shines bright in the otherwise dark years. Hundreds of girls glow in the dust of the radium dial factories until they begin to fall mysteriously ill. As the factories try to cover up the shocking secret, those determined quote-unquote shining girls suddenly find themselves embroiled in one of the biggest scandals of America's early 20th century. This book is so good. It gives so much about each of the victims that you follow their stories and you really see how this progressed. Okay. What's with the hissing? See, I told you guys, it's all gonna go crazy now that I let the cats in because it's been a while. So again, I knew the basics about this, but I didn't know the in-depth story, especially of how the radium corporations were hiding this from these women. It was really frustrating when reading about it, how like even when it was brought to court, just them dragging these women through the mud saying, they didn't die of radium poisoning, they died of an STD or so on. It was wild. And I'm reading it and I'm getting really angry, but you get to the end. And I actually, when I finished it, and I'm not a very emotional person, I'm just cold. It's cold-hearted as they come. When I got to the end, I was like, oh my God. And I texted Liz and I was like, I just finished and I just cried. Like I cried at the end. It was just the justice, and it was late. A lot of the victims had passed away by then, but just the justice that a lot of their families received, if you want to call it justice, because obviously their loved one's gone, but it was it was just such a profound moment at the end of the book that I actually just started crying, but it's such a good book. And there are pictures in it. And I do have to give a disclaimer. Some of the pictures, and you guys can look this up. I looked this up beforehand, and I'll show this example of one of the dial painters that was had a radium-induced sarcoma on her chin. So this picture right here, you can see how, like, the effects of the radium. Don't mind my nails. I meant to repaint, strip them, and then I meant to repaint them tonight, and the night got ahead of me, so my apologies. It was a long week at work, and I started biting them. Not good, I know. Anyway, so yes, check this book out. And if you're not even into true crime, it's just a really good, if you're into history, it's a really good read. So check that out. The Radium Girls, The Dark Story of America's Shining Women by Kate Moore. So let's see where you guys are. The great thing with doing these live with you guys instead of the kind of pre-recorded book recommendations I've done in the past is I can kind of pause in between and see if you guys have read them or if you've heard of the case, so on and so forth. That's a great story. Yes. I haven't seen the movie. If you guys have seen the movie, let me know. I did watch the trailer, and I don't know. I always prefer the book over the movie because you get more with a book, and I don't know, movies kind of change a lot of things. But if you guys have read the book and saw the movie and you recommend the movie, let me know and I will check it out. But let's see. Hi, Sam Smith. Sandra Good and me went to the same high school. Oh God, James, you are just right on top of that. Undercover Mermaid. I have so many books I bought but still haven't read. Story of my life. I love that radium glass stuff. Radium dial watches are rad. Yes, in the Gulf War, syndrome was fake too, according to the government. Oh, I mean, we could have a whole show on that. Corey Novak. You're going to get timed out, hun, if you put out fake news. Danny's favorite podcast, Last Podcast on the Left, has a series on this. It's pretty good. Okay, since you brought it up, I'll address the elephant in the room. Last Podcast on the Left. I know it is a wildly popular true crime podcast. Not my cup of tea. I have friends, I have family that listen to it, that swear by it. And each time it's like if I'm in the car and it's like, hey, let's listen to this one. It's like, okay. And I give it an honest attempt and I'm like, I just can't. For me, and this is just a me thing, I just want the facts. Tell me about the case. I don't need kind of back and forth banter. And that show is a lot of back and forth banter, which I think is what draws a lot of people to it, because I could get, by listening to it, you feel like you know the hosts of it and you see their vibe and their connection and relationship with each other. And you kind of listening to it, I could see how you could be like, okay, I feel like one of them. It's just not my thing. So Corey putting out fake news, but thank you for letting people know so that if they did want to download and listen to that on this case, that they can do so. I will actually let Liz know so that she can listen to it. I'll make her do it. And then she can say whether she thinks, they did the book justice or kind of, went a certain way with the case. Hey, Chrissy, good to see you. Thanks for being here, hon. I thought Danny's favorite podcast was Danny After Dark. Oh, Capone. It's like you know me so well. Corey, one of the hosts, I heard. Oh, I so heard. Yes, I did. Hey, the better Paul. Oh, hey, Dave. Good to see you, hon. Hope you're doing good. So, okay. But yes, I did hear that. And for those of you who are wondering what is the scandal, just Google it. You'll find out. But I did hear about that. And it's a shame. But leave it at that. All right. So 2 books down. I have 3 more to share with you guys. Kane, the book you have been waiting for. And my apologies for waiting so long to get it. I tend to, as I've mentioned before, like the average person, I mean, let's be real, who doesn't get an Amazon order like every week delivered to your house? You'd think I'd add a book here, add a book there. No, I like stockpile them on my wish list. And then I'm like, oh my God, I only have one book left to read. Let me order like 20 at once. Yeah, that's my vibe. I don't know. I always say I'm not going to do that, and I do. So that's why it took a while to get the book, but I got it. And that book, Kane recommended, and I recommended to you guys. It was a great recommendation. And the author is Joseph Wambaugh. It is, and my apologies if I'm mispronouncing that author's last name. It is Echoes in Darkness. So this is a true case. I was going to say I don't want to give it away, but this goes back to 1979. So basically, in a nutshell, I'm just reading from the back here for you guys. The naked corpse of school teacher Susan Reinhardt was found in her hatchback car in a hotel parking lot near Philadelphia's Main Line. Her 2 children had also vanished. This case kind of follows the people involved. The FBI get involved, the state police, and ultimately center on 2 men. Dr. J.C. Smith, by day, he was principal of Upper Merion High School, where Susan Reinhardt was a teacher. At night, he was a sadist who indulged in porno, drugs, and weapons. William Bradfield, we're going to talk about him. He was a bearded and charismatic English teacher and classic scholar, but his real genius was for juggling women, 3 at a time. One of those women was Susan Reinhardt. And this goes over how these 2 men were connected and how the murder carried off. One thing I don't like on the back, it said how the brilliant murder was carried off. I don't like that. Don't say it was a brilliant murder. I don't like that, but I digress. And how the investigators closed the case. Okay, William Bradford. Reading this book, I think it gave good insight into just how, it's a good connection with, I'll just say the Charles Manson case in regards to, you read it and, you're learning about the case and it's like, wait a minute, how could someone go along with this? Or how could someone be so influenced by this person? But that was just, it happens every day. It wasn't just Charles Manson. It wasn't just William Bradfield. It still happens to this day. And what I liked about this book is you saw how everybody was drawn to him and how he came off to so many as intelligent and scholarly, but those who actually knew the field he was talking about knew he was full of shit. And that was pretty cool. But again, it really gave you that insight into how he was able to draw so many people, get them in, and then ultimately over time, ask them to do such wild and crazy things that they went along with because they were so... He would not steer them wrong. Why would he lie to them? And he really just made them believe they were doing the right thing. And I really liked, that was my favorite part of the book. That was truly my favorite part of the book because, again, outsider looking in, when the case is already done and solved, it's easy to read this and be like, oh my God, why didn't they back out? How could they not have gone to the police? But again, you're watching this unfold kind of back in real time, and you can see how those decisions were made. You don't agree with them, but you can see that. And that's so important because, again, people like William Bradfield still exist to this day. So it's a great read to get you to kind of see another perspective that we don't always see with this book. My one, I don't want to say complaint because I don't mean it like that, is because it's a long book and it's short, the writing's small, it's just about 350 pages. It gives a lot of background, kind of more than I felt was a little bit necessary, to be perfectly honest, but that's just my opinion. When reading books, I kind of like to dive right in and let's get to it. And I get that you have to set the scene. You have to introduce who's involved in the case, their background if that's necessary. This, I just felt it dragged on a bit longer than I would have liked. I forget where it kind of left that part and then got into the actual crime, but it got so long that I was thinking like, okay, we're so many pages in, this is all that's left of the book. What's going to happen? We've covered so much of the background. You know what I mean? That was my only hesitation with it, but this was great to read about. I did not know the in-depth details about this case. I just heard of it here and there. So I knew the basics, but when Kane recommended it, it got me to learn the in-depth details. And I'm really, really glad, Kane, that you're here for this episode. I was so afraid that I'd review the book and you wouldn't be here. So I'm really glad you're here. And I'm not doxing or anything. You've put in the chat earlier that you lived very, very close to where this occurred. So if anybody has any questions for Kane, I'm not putting you on the spot in any way, shape, or form. You don't have to answer anything, but Kane's right here. You know the area. You know this case way more than I do. I've just read this one book. You know this case. So if anybody here has any questions for Kane, I mean, take advantage. Take advantage. Kane, only if you're comfortable answering, but yeah, so thank you again for this book recommendation, and you have shared it with me, so I am sharing it with you guys. So definitely check it out. Okay, so a few of you came back with some comments. I just want to make sure I don't ignore anybody. Let's see. I'm sick of hearing people fight. I turn that crap right off. I just had Amazon drop off the new Stones album an hour ago. Nice. That is a nice order, James. That is cool. Let's see. Hey, Joy. Good to see you. Hey, Lisa. Hello. Thank you. I appreciate that. Haven't read it, but heard it's good. Don't know the difference between porno and porn. Well, James, look it up on the internet. But I will not be held responsible for what pops up. Let's see. I really need to start reading again. I support that. I very much support that. Hey, Troy. Good to see you. Smith lived down the street from me. Oh, my God. That's wild. Wild. It's interesting. Like, I'm so glad you say that, because in doing this show, Danny After Dark, it is so interesting meeting so many of you through this platform that, this was just a COVID project and it just kept going. And I really enjoy it because, not everybody in my, real life, so to speak, is into true crime. Liz is one of my best friends. Again, you all check out that collab when we did the Boston Marathon bombing Netflix documentary review, but she was not into true crime at all. And now she's into it, which is awesome because we text about it almost every single day. Did you read this? Did you see this? But besides that, yeah, so this has been such a great platform to connect with you guys. But with that being said, the episodes that I'm covering, I'll get messages from some of you, or some of you will actually post it on the video itself, which is fine because then you're putting that information out there on your own and I'm not, revealing anything. But y'all's personal ties to these cases, it's, oh, I knew this person, or, oh, I live in that area. I knew the family. I worked here, so on and so forth. And it's so, so interesting and fascinating to make those connections with you, but then to hear those stories, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And I'm so grateful for that. So yes, Kane, I'm really glad you're here and sharing that you, again, were so close to this case. Sam Smith, a lot of good books out there, but you can't read every one. You have to specialize in one subject. Hence a true crime channel, Sam. Let's see. Any out there like Michael Conley's books? He's out with a new one. I don't think I've heard of any of Michael Conley's books. Hey, UFO Bigfoot. Oh my gosh, that has been so long since I've seen you. I hope you're doing good. Let's see. I read a lot as a homeschool teacher. Wish I had more time for reading, which just interests me. I had to run in with Dr. Smith. What? Do you have any other genres you like? This is not going to come as a shock either. I guess it's more so supporting the feline rescue community, but cat books, like, for example, Jackson Galaxy, I own all of his books. Hannah Shaw, Kitten Lady. I've met her several times, gone to her workshops when she tours and does information and trainings on like how to TNR, trap, neuter, release. Who else? Andrew Martilla, who is now Kitten Lady's husband. He has some cat books out there. He's a cat photographer. So I know that's not going to come as a shock to any of you guys, but, you know, books on cat rescue, on TNR, on fostering neonatal kittens. That's what Kitten Lady specializes in, Hannah Shaw. And her books are amazing and informative. So yeah, that's the only other genres I like. I don't really gravitate to a lot of other things. I will say, and I'm shocked this happened, earlier on, oh gosh, going back on earlier book recommendations, Paul, my co-host over on the Paulcast, recommended 2 Stephen King books, The Shining and was it Dr. Sleep? I'm totally blanking the name. The books are downstairs. But he recommended it. I'm like, nope, that's not my thing. You know, that's not what I like to read. But he's like, I know you'll like it, Danny. I know you'll like it. I eventually caved, bought them, read them, loved them. So yeah, there are a few Stephen King books that I really dig. I will do that. But I mean, who doesn't like Stephen King? So I hope that answers your question. Long story short, it's been a long day, y'all. I just got home a little just before I jumped on with you guys. So it has been a long day. Hey, Mimi. Y'all should do more collaboration. She's good on here with you. Thank you, Corey, for the suggestion. Paul, the better Paul says, Danny, your cats think you're a bit strange talking to yourself. Oh, God. Out of all the things, yeah, that's like probably the least strange thing. Lisa says, I love history, so maybe I could look into some historical true crimes. Lisa, yes. And if you find any that you think are worth recommending to me, please let me know. Please let me know. Danny is a YA dork, I bet. What does YA mean? I don't know what that means. She loves Westerns. Oh, Corey, for Christ's sakes. What is your favorite book of all time? Let's see. Answer that 1 second. Connie's books are the basis of the TV show Bosch. Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. I did not know. Right now, my favorite true crime book of all time is The Madman in the Woods by Jamie Gehring. That was, and I had her on. I'm so grateful that she came on for an interview on this channel. That has become my favorite true crime book of all time. It was just, I can't recommend it enough. I know I've talked about it in a different recommendations video. Check out my interview with her. I could probably talk like for another half hour just about her and her book. So good. I tend to gravitate towards books, Renee, where like Anne Rules is a good one too. The behind the scenes of the crimes. I really like those. And when I say that, I mean like even Ted Bundy's girlfriend Elizabeth Kendall did The Phantom Prince. Books like that where you're really getting a very different perspective from people that ultimately these killers, these monsters, these murderers were able to fool. And you get to see how they did it. It's very complex and it's worth really studying. And that's what I really like looking at when I look at true crime. That's like my favorite aspect of true crime, because as I always say, people want monsters to look like monsters and they don't. And I think the more we get away from that mindset, because it's been true crime has been happening for so long, you'd think society as a whole would kind of be like, all right, there's more we need to look at here. And we've made a lot of progress, but I still think people judging a book by its cover, it's like, no, you can't do that. With true crime, you can't do that. With people, you can't do that. And you really need to look at the behind the scenes kind of study how people have gotten away with it, how they've been able to specifically fool so many people. How did they do that? Were there similarities? Were there differences? You know, and study that, and then so that we can look more towards that for kind of preventing. I hate to say preventing because it's so hard to prevent. If somebody's a monster and going to do something completely horrible, they're going to do it. Is there stopping them? Maybe if there's intervention when they're young, but you know, and obviously the FBI, the behavioral unit, they've been studying this forever. So anyway, long story short, let's see. What is your favorite Twilight novel? Screw you, James. No, not my vibe. Not my vibe. Sparkly, glittery vampires aren't my thing. That question, I think if you want to ask Beckham and the Paulcast, I think they were really, you know, there's some argument who was, God, see, I don't even know the names of that. What was it? Oh, God, I have to think back. What were girls all about? Was it Team Edward versus Team, oh God, what was it? Taylor's character, Jacob, was it? I forget. See, I don't even know. Man, I remember when people were into that when it came out. Not my thing. Young adult, Harry Potter, Hunger Games, Twilight. See, I haven't read any of that. Haven't even seen them. I think I saw the first Harry Potter movie. I think I did. Hunger Games, I think I watched it once on one of them on an airplane. I don't know. I know everybody loves it. I'm not bashing it. It's just not my thing. We are reading The Outsider's Capone. It's so fun to read those. Good to know. Let's see. Lisa says there are some good true crime channels that have historical true crime, so maybe I can look into those. Let's see. The Prince is in the Tower. Okay. Oop, K-Dog. Hi, welcome. Didn't even know there was a museum. Jake. Corey, I'm thankful that you answered that, but also you answered that pretty quick. So for all of your Twilight needs and questions, check out Corey Novak After Dark. Let's see. Oh my God, James, I'm not even entertaining that. Auntie Mimi says, I think I've seen every vampire movie out there. And I think you've seen all the Harry Potter ones. I think I went with Mimi. I think I went with you to see the first Harry Potter movie now that I think about it. I'm pretty sure I did. Let's see. Have you read Raven? No, I have not. He was a reporter that accompanied the congressman to Jonestown, survived. I have not read that. I knew this was going to happen. Let me make sure my volume's down. I'm going to take a screenshot of that because, yeah, I'll miss it when I go back. All right. Perfect. Thank you for that. Check that out. Have you seen the movie In Cold Blood? Who hasn't seen the movie In Cold Blood? Yes, I have, Paul. Okay, all right. Corey's trying to defend himself here. A girlfriend in high school wanted me to read them with her. I didn't hate them. Wow. That is boyfriend of the year stuff right there, because damn. Yeah, girls, hey, read Twilight with me. Okay. Good for you, Corey. Good for you. Boyfriend of the year right there. Hey, Doug, do not apologize, hon. You are good. Yes, thank you. Michelle did. Oh, okay. All right. So books 4 and 5 that I'm recommending for tonight. Okay. We know your team, Corey. So, okay, books 4 and 5, I'm going to be kind of tying them together. They are both books in the Charles Manson universe. They're both very similar, but give very different perspectives, and I recommend them both. One I have talked about over on the Paul Cass Manson Saga discussion panel for quite a bit. The other one I actually recently bought when I saw it in a bookstore. Was it just before I went to, before I went to Canada? Yeah, I think so. All right, either way. So these two books are from two different perspectives of jury members who were on the Charles Manson case. First book is Blood Family, and that is by William Zamora. I've talked about this a bunch over on Manson Saga discussion panel, so check that out. Again, he was one of the jurors on the case. He, very much so states he's a little bit aggressive in how he was during the trial, William, that is. But what I really liked about this book is it gave a really good insight into, because we study the case, right? And we like, oh my gosh, why weren't they acquitted? Or, we all have our own thoughts on the case. Let's put it that way. Reading this book, I really understood from his perspective why the jury voted the way they did in the case. And it was interesting because he was talking about, where the judge would have to remind the defense that, do you have any questions? Is there anybody you want? Like, it was just reminding. And it's like, oh man, the defense, that's a whole thing in itself. But yes, check this book out. It gives a really good insight into somebody who served on the jury for that case. The next book is also somebody who served on the jury for that case, but this book is totally, yep, there's Loki. I knew that was going to happen when that loud car went by. Totally different perspective, because this book is from the jury foreman. So this is Inside the Manson Jury, from Deliberation to Death Sentence. It is by jury foreman Herman, and I might be misrepresenting his last name, Tubick, and Helen Tubick, his wife. And this is alongside Deborah Herman, who helped with this book. So again, Herman was the jury foreman, and he gives a very different perspective on this case from the trial perspective. And he also talks about William Zamora in the book too, and kind of his thoughts on him. So that was kind of interesting, because I'd already read William's book long ago. So to read this, I was like, okay, it's very different. And they each approached the case very differently, and you get that when you read it. So Herman is a very religious man, family man, husband, father, upright, upstanding citizen. And you get that throughout this whole thing. And I think that was my only also, who am I in regards to criticizing or saying, someone's religious background shouldn't play a factor in this. But I kind of think keep it separate from how you serve on the jury. But that's just my own thought. But he did a great. What is my cat doing? Digging around. Okay. Sorry. Cat life, y'all. I opened that door and I knew all six would come in here eventually. Oh, and there's Leia, who's definitely going to knock something over, I can assure you. But anyway, yeah. So this book is, again, totally night and day with Blood Family. But I do recommend reading both, because you get both perspectives. And again, you really get a sense from both why the jury voted the way they did. And this whole notion of the jury being sequestered, you read in both. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. They could have family over. They could have their, the hairdresser over. They could have hookups over. William Zamora is a bit more blunt in his writing, I do have to say, where this Herman's is a bit more toned, but nonetheless a great read. So those are the 5 books that I am recommending for now. I have a whole pile of books. You can't see, it's on the table behind me, ready to go to review for you guys. I like to spread them out, so I'll do that a little, bit down the road. I have other books that I'm reading currently that will be added to that pile if I feel they're worth recommending. And so far, all of the books I've read are worth recommending. So let me just see where you guys are in the chat, and then we'll wind it down. But again, if you guys have read any of these books, let me know. I'm like so waiting for her to knock something over. Let me know your thoughts. If you guys have any true crime book recommendations too, please, please, please leave it in the comments once the video stays up, so that not only myself can see it, but also, you guys also following, wanting book recommendations. So, oh my gosh, nothing knocked over. That's wild. I'm glad you guys like when my cats are in here. It stresses me out. Like Tuca's up there just like snoozing, living his best life. Like that I don't mind. But when they're back and forth, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to knock something over. I know you guys love seeing them, but I get really stressed out. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Lisa says I have to go. Oh my God, 2:35 in the morning. Girl, thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your night. Let's see. Okay, Capone says, In Cold Blood was in western Kansas, really close to where I grew up in northeastern Colorado. Oh, interesting. I did not know that. I'm here. I know I saw you. I gave you a little shout out when I saw you in here earlier. Good to see you, Troy. My husband read all of the Game of Thrones books to me while I painted. Oh my God, Renee, that is a keeper for sure. I have not read the books. I did watch the show, but I have heard that the books do differ a bit. But I enjoyed the show. Let's see. My mom knew Jim Jones as a young child, so I wanted to check it out. Wild. James, you're so bad. Renee, don't listen to James. Let's see. Hey, Chris James. Hello, good to see you. Let's see. I'm just wanting to make sure I get to y'all's comments. What did I miss? James, if you leave for 1 second, you miss it all. Oh man. Martini time. Yes. Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah, it's a observed holiday tomorrow. So Veterans Day on Saturday, and it's observed tomorrow in most workplaces. I say most. So I have tomorrow off work. I know Beckham has tomorrow off work. But I do have some friends that still have to go into work. So that's interesting. But point being, martini time for sure. Did they talk about, yes, Troy, both of the books talked about that from different perspectives. And yeah, they both authors kind of said that they wouldn't let that impact their vote. So yeah, but they do go through that. It's just a minor part in the books though. But definitely worth checking out. Does anybody count? Oh man, I know. Oh my God. Let's see. Beers, good to see you, hun. Oh, Capone, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear that. All right, you guys. So that is that. So those are my 5 true crime book recommendations I have for you guys. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for the conversation with those books tonight. Big shout out to Kane again for recommending one of the books and then being in here and discussing the kind of more, I don't want to say experience with it, but personal ties to the case and to the area. So thank you so much for that. There will be another true crime book recommendations video coming up probably in the next few weeks, as I just want to, kind of spread them out. Because otherwise, oh man, I could go through so many of them because I have a big stack back there ready to review with you guys. So Other than that, there will most likely be a true crime and chill either tomorrow or Saturday, whichever date. I got to figure out what's going on this weekend, and then I will do that for you guys. Other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the week into your weekend. And until next time, everybody, remember, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us. Bye, everyone.